Hello and welcome to another breakout session. This is breakout session number 40. Today we're going to be talking about minor chords and minor scales and the minor intervals, how to transpose minor keys. It may be minor, but it's important. Before I get started, as usual, I want to say hi to all the members of the Guitar League out there. And then anybody watching that might be in the vicinity of one of our Guitar League chapters, we would love to have you come out to one of our meetings. So if you go on the Guitar League website, which I put down there, and see if there's a chapter near you and see what nights they're having meetings, and they'd love to have you come by and check out a meeting of the Guitar League. And oh, by the way, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Okay, hit the little like button and the bell. So today, again, we're going to talk about minor chords and scales and how we make them and how we transpose minor keys. They're different than a major key, and the spacing, the intervals between notes are different, which is what I'm going to explain to you. You're going to get all the materials down in the description below. I recently did, we're going to just take a little 8-bar blues in A minor. We'll do St. James Infirmary. And I just did a video on how to play that, and I did a little cover of it, which I can link down there too. But basically, that song is an A minor, an E7, an A minor. A minor and an F with a C in the bass, a C note and an E, an A minor, an E7, an A minor with a G in the bass, an F, an E, and an A minor. I can put that in the links too. But we're going to talk about the progression of that. So that progression is like a 1-5-1-1-6-5-1-5-1-6-5-1. What am I talking about? And how do we get to that point? How do we find that? Okay? Or how do we create a minor scale? Well, first, in A minor is the 6th degree of the C scale, and I'm going to have some little charts for you to show you. And a C scale obviously starts on C, and the A minor would be the 6th in a C scale, but it's the 1 in an A minor scale. So if you wrote out a C major scale twice, and you started on the A note, and you started numbering them 1, 2, 3, 4 down the line, that would be how you reach an A minor scale. So the A minor is going to be the 1 in an A minor scale. Okay? And the chord progression in a C major scale would be a major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, and back to the root again. In a minor key, when you start with A, if you put out a C scale twice and you number them, you'll see that A, so you start with a minor, minor, major, minor, minor or major. I'll talk to you about the 5th degree. Major, major, minor. Okay, so that changes. The chords change. So in a, like let's say in a 1-4-5, in A major, you'd have a major chord, you'd have a A major, a D7, and an E7 in a A major. In a minor 1-4-5 progression, you'd have 3 minor chords. You'd have an A minor, a D minor, and an E minor. Okay, so that changes. And the distance between the notes changes. You know how a major scale, like let's say C scale, It's a whole step, a whole step, a half step, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and a half step. Okay? But when you start that scale on the 6th degree, you're going to change the distance between the notes. So you start in an A minor scale, there's a whole step, but then it becomes, so it's from A to B, there's a whole step. When you go from B to C, that's a half a step. So it's whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So the degrees, the intervals change on a minor. I showed you the C major scale. The intervals were a whole step, a whole step, a half step, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and a half step. The whole steps have a flat or a sharp in between them, as you could see. When we come up the scale to A, which is the 6th degree, that is the minor degree. So we're gonna start with A, and you'll see that there's a whole step to B, a half a step to C, a whole step to D, a whole step to E, half a step to F, whole step to G, and then a whole step back to A. So it changes the intervals, as you can see on the sheet here, when you move the scale and start with A as your 1 chord, the minor chord. Okay, so we're going to have a different set of intervals, and you'll see why that's important in just a minute. Key as opposed to a major key. Okay, so how we create a minor scale is by using those steps. Okay, so like in an A minor scale, if you started on A, you go to a whole step and a half a step. Then you go a whole step up here, a whole step and a half a step, then a whole step and a whole step. So it's different than if you did an A major scale. There's a difference in the intervals. There's a difference in the intervals, spaces, between a major chord and a minor chord. So there's 2 ways to, define that minor. As we said, you could take a C scale and start on the 6th degree to find an A minor. Or you can take an A minor chord, an A minor scale, and do the simple A minor scale pattern that I'm going to give you in 1 octave. That'll include that down here. So where it's a whole space, half a space, whole space, half space, whole space, and whole space. And those notes in those intervals would be also be the chords that you would play. So you've got an A minor chord, you'd have a B diminished chord, you'd have a C major chord, you'd have a D minor chord, an E minor chord, an F major chord, a G major chord, and back to A. When you play the 5th note in a minor scale, so that would be the E. The 5th note in a minor scale can be either a major chord or a minor chord. It can be a major, it could be a dominant 7 chord or a minor chord. And the reason it can be a major or a minor chord, the 5th degree in this minor scale can be major or minor. The reason is that there is another little scale called a harmonic minor. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but the harmonic minor, in the minor key, you've got no sharps or flats in an A minor scale. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. But But in a harmonic minor scale, you have one sharp, and it would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, A. Which really gives it a cool sound, by the way. But that sharp, that's a G sharp in the A minor scale, G sharp note. That just happens to be the major third or the third of an E. Okay, so that's why it would work. You can use an E major or an E minor in an A minor scale. And the other thing about the 5th degree of a minor scale, it acts like the 5th degree of a major scale. It wants to pull you back to the tonic chord. It wants to resolve back to the 1. So the 5 and the 1. So whether it be a major scale or a minor scale, the 5 chord wants to resolve to the 1 chord. Okay, so now how would we transpose a key? Well, those little scales that I gave you charts of, especially the simple 1 octave minor scale in A minor, if we had to change that song that we were doing, St. James Infirmary, to B minor, we would just take that whole scale up to B and start on B, and those notes, that would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, an octave of the B minor scale. So those notes would equate to the chords, okay? So like the 1 chord and the 5 chord in B minor. A minor, B minor. So to transpose in a minor key, probably the easiest way to do it is using this simple scale that I gave you, and then just move it to the key that you want to transpose it to. If we were going to G, to go to G minor, you'd start on the G chord. And you can use the E string as the root note to transpose it. So I hope that helps. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. Just do one more simple chord progression and transpose it into another key. So let's take an A minor and let's do a 1, 6, 7, 1 in A minor. So that would be a A minor, an F major, a G major, and a 1, an A minor. So let's transpose that to B minor. It would be a B minor, a G major, an A major, and a B minor. In a minor chord, in a minor key, the 1, 4, 5 is, there are 3 minor chords in a 1, 4, 5. So to get a major chord in there, it's going to have to be like a 1, 6, 7 progression to get those major chords. So again, an A minor, 1, F is major is a 6, G major is a 7, and back to the A. Okay, so you just got to remember when you're doing minor chord progressions that the numbers change, the major and minor chords change. And on this little chart that I gave you, you'll notice that I capitalized the major chords and small letters on the minor chords to help you figure out what that is. It's different in the major key than it is in the minor key. I just wanted to leave you with that little thought. So I hope you enjoyed this. I didn't want to get too deep into the weeds for you beginners, but this is how you become advanced, is learning these kinds of things. So we're going to see you in the next video, and remember, be safe out there.